Hey guys, this is Austin Freeman. You're listening to Monday Morning Critic.
For that.
Yeah,
And congratulations on everything that's been happening, man. Like
thank you, man. Yeah,
it's
it's
been
been fun.
yeah, I'm looking at your Instagram is a fun follow. I was looking at pictures of you and your stunning, I think it's your better half, if I misspoke.
100%. Yes.
Yes, let me tell you, you are very lucky, and I'm sure
Yeah,
she's
yeah. I'm
yeah.
aware.
But it was just great to see you guys out having fun. Look like you were, I mean, you've done a lot of work in your professional life to get you to this point, so
Yeah,
it's a well-earned thing. So I'm happy for you, Austin.
yeah. Thank you, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, but your filmography, though, before we get to Guardians, your filmography is sneaky good. Like, you have some things in there. Like, I feel like The Mule is so underrated. It's so well done.
Yeah, that was probably like my first kind of like big project too that I started on. And I mean, I got my feet wet super fast on that one because I was on that movie for like 4 months with Clint and like just amazing stars. So
Yeah.
and I was like part of his core family, so I got to work with that like the entire time, basically run a picture.
Yeah, and then I totally forgot you're a Walking Dead guy.
Yeah,
I forget and I remember you, but it's just such it's a diverse cast. It's 11 seasons, but like yeah, I remember you from that. And how'd you like being part of that universe?
that's such a cool. I mean, I've been a fan of the show since the beginning, anyways. So, it was just kind of cool to kind of step into that. And I was only in it for a couple of episodes, but
Right.
it was a super fun just to kind of be in and like inserted into that very very strong ensemble cast, and just getting to meet everybody. And like my first day on, like when I went into the trailer, like there was Norman Reedus sitting there, and he was super nice. And I got to talk to him and Melissa McBride. I mean, I got to talk to everybody, and it was super cool. Like that is such a well-oiled machine since I was in season 10, so
Yeah,
it had been running for so long that I mean, the sets were amazing. Everybody was just top of their game. It was really cool.
and it's Norman's name and Melissa's name. I feel like they come up a lot. Not
Yeah.
not that everyone else is like there's nothing wrong there, but like those are the two that people always say they made a point of being extra. Like that's who they were. So
Yeah, they were great. And I mean, I met Carrie Payton, who was King Ezekiel,
yeah,
and there were a lot of people that I got to work with that were like had been brought in later seasons. But I think especially since Norman and Melissa, they'd been there since the beginning. They were kind of like the heart of the show at that point in time.
right.
And they were great. They were very sweet.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I loved Dope Sick. Like I
Oh
loved it,
yeah,
but I had to stop a pause halfway through because it just not that it hits home with me, but it's really hard to watch because you know what it's turned into in 2023, right? So
yeah,
it's just a fabulous show. I needed a break because it's a lot to process,
100%.
and it's because it's done so well, right? So anything you want to say about Dope? I'm kind of working in reverse here. So
No, totally.
anything you want to say about Dope Sick?
I mean, I was really proud, first of all, of how that project turned out.
Yeah,
Because I think that like just about everybody you talk to has some kind of personal experience with someone who is either suffered from addiction or has died from addiction. And that was, I mean, I remember people in high school overdosing on OxyContin. And so like, it was such a personal touch for me that I was just really proud of the work that we got to do on that. And I mean, my God, the people that were in it, from Michael Keaton, Caitlin Dever, Rosario, like everybody, they did such deeply, just profoundly like moving work that I was really, really proud of everybody. And Will Poulter, who I got to work with later on, I didn't meet him on Dope Sick, but when I met him on Guardians, I got to talk to him. And I was like, hey, man, I just want to let you know, like, I was really, really moved by the work that you did. And he was like so gracious about it. He's just like a gracious guy in general. But that was like some of the best work that I had seen him do to that point. So I was just like, wow, man, you've got range that I didn't see before this.
yeah. He's the secret sauce in Guardians 3. I
Big
think.
time.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good parts, a lot of good people to that. The last one I wanted to ask you about was Loki. So you are, man, you are really doing some pretty positive things here. I mean, man, your filmography is really stretching out with some really quality projects.
Well, and the cool thing is like, since I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, which is, kind of our Southeast market, and there's such a cool opportunity for growth very quickly here because the competition is less, for one. And if you kind of know what you're doing and you audition consistently and do consistently good work for casting, they start trusting you a lot faster.
Right.
And then you get to do like just much higher quality, higher caliber work than you would necessarily do in some of the older markets like Los Angeles and New York, just because of the fact that like you rise to the top really fast and then they trust you with bigger roles here like a lot more quickly, which is great.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, all of those projects. I mean, getting to work with Tom was like, I've been a huge fan of Loki, the character, and Tom, like his work for a long time. So getting to kind of share the screen with him and just kind of go head to head and kind of, kind of a battle of wits. We had a scripted dialogue that we went through, but we got to do like a little bit of improv and just kind of just play around and just kind of riff with each other, which is really cool. And, he's a really gracious actor as well. I mean, before we started filming, we sat down and talked for probably 30 minutes about just like character and what Loki is for him and how that role had changed his life. And, it was like we got to do some of that kind of cool actor talk where we talk about like, okay, what's kind of your drive here? What's kind of your secret as the actor here? And we got to do a lot of that. So I got to kind of lace that into my version of the variant as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, he sounds like a guy, Austin, when the cameras are off. He's a super nice guy. Just
super nice. Yeah. As genuine as can be. Just a nice, upstanding guy. Yeah.
Before we get into, I just want to talk about your early life in a second. But before that, you got me thinking when you were talking about Tom and that. I just read something where Andrew Garfield was talking about character actors because I feel like people come down hard on people that use the character method or character actors. But about people that do use it, like Garfield was sticking up for it. What's your take on that, Austin? My take is, I mean, from a non-actor, you tell me if I'm just being naive here. Whatever gets you through the day and puts you at 100%, man, do that. Like, I don't know, that maybe that's just a naive way of looking at it. How do you look at it, Austin?
I think that's actually a really good way of looking at it because there are so many different schools of acting. I mean, you've got your Stanislavskis, you've got your Stella Adlers, you've got all of these people from your Meisners and all of these different schools of thought, right? But I think what I've picked up on, and what I think a lot of people do is like you kind of sample from things and you take what's good and you leave what doesn't work for you. And so everybody has their own process when it comes to things like that. I think if staying in character and being in character on and off helps you to create a more true and nuanced performance, then like you got to do what works for you.
Yeah.
And I mean, as long as everybody's like safe and they're kind to their castmates and the people that they work with and things like that, I think that just about anything is on the table to get you there and to get you in that right headspace to create an authentic performance. So yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of connection with the character kind of stuff in general, but I'm also kind of more in like the idea of like practical aesthetics, which is like what William H. Macy and a couple of other actors like that you would know they practice, and that a lot of what they do is they say that you can never really create a character that's more complex or more compelling than who you are. You already have a complex, super intricate backstory within yourself, and so all you're really doing is just tapping into different portions of yourself. I've wanted to hurt somebody. I've wanted to be with that girl. I've wanted to steal something. So it's like really just for me, it's like tapping into those different sides of myself and then hitting my mark and saying my lines. That's kind of a lot of what like the people that I look at that that they say, and I think that's really kind of cool.
Yeah, it's well said. So man, like early on, I feel like looking at your life that you knew you wanted to be an actor, right? You're a kid born in South Carolina. Really, your theater work is pretty amazing. Let me ask you this. So I love asking this question to everybody who comes on the show. So what for you? Who or what movie or what project or what actor did it for you, right? Because I always feel like there has to be some influence. Maybe it's not that simple. I don't know, but I think there's always something, right? I mean, I grew up during the '80s. I can name countless things that I love about movies and television. Is there anything in particular, Austin, that sparked your love for the craft?
So there were kind of two movies that kind of rose to the top for me just because they just stuck with me for a long time. One was Edward Norton in the movie The Illusionist. I just really loved just
a great movie.
Yeah, I just really loved like just his connection there, and just especially when you get to sort of kind of the climax of the movie. I mean, I really, really love that. It came out around the same time as The Prestige, and The Prestige kind of stole a lot of the thunder, but because it was an amazing movie as well.
Right.
But I always had just more of a love for that movie and just kind of the connection between him and Jessica Biel and Paul Giamatti and Rufus Sewell. Like, there's such a strong cast in that movie. And then I'm also a huge fan of this movie called The Fountain, which is Hugh Jackman. It's a Darren Aronofsky film.
Great movie.
And it's just so like just cinematically beautiful that I've watched it more times than I can probably count. But when I saw that the first time, I was like, that's the kind of stuff that I want to do. I want to tell a story that like hits you in your soul, and something that feels like it transcends like all cultures and time and place. And I thought that was just such a beautiful story of like love and rebirth and constantly trying to find something to save the person that you love. I thought it was like such a beautiful movie that those were things that really kind of sent me down the path, I think. And I really haven't looked back in a lot of ways. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I thought about that tree a lot in The Fountain. I think about, I
Yeah.
mean, that is such a wonderful movie, powerful movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, those are, I was not expecting that. Not that I was expecting, I just was, that's just two great movies that, like, I like unconventional. That's unconventional. That's
and that's kind of like, those are the ones that stick out to me the most for some reason. I mean, I love big blockbusters. I love I love the fun of that kind of stuff, but like it's those that you don't really expect that kind of come in kind of from left field that really really stick with you. And I'm also like just such a visual person that like things like that they've just stuck with me, and I just can't get away from them.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's the work that you've put in. I talked about your theater work. You went to school. I mean, did you feel that when you look back now, Austin, on that part of your life, do you feel that all of that was necessary? Is there a part you could have done without, or do you feel like it all kind of contributes to who you are today as an actor?
I've thought about that several times, and because you really don't need training in a lot of ways for this. Either you have like an intrinsic like understanding of how to connect and play a part, but there are ways to hone those skills. So I'm always a fan of especially the theater training. There were times when I kind of wish that I had gone to film school instead. But for me, like, I mean, I grew up in a small town in Georgia. I mean, and so like even the idea of like going and pursuing a career in theater, which was like definitely closer to home, it was not. I never even thought about film for a long time until I was probably like on the edge of graduating from college in my theater program, and then just kind of like sort of found my way into it. But I mean, I don't regret any of it. I mean, I love the training that I got on stage. I got to understand how to break down scripts and how to like really connect with characters. And there are bigger, larger parts that you get to play on stage that you don't generally have the chance to play on film to begin with.
Right.
And you can build your way into them, hopefully. And that is the goal, is to build a career like that. But there are this deep masterpieces that you get to play on stage that you don't really get that chance to work with sometimes. Sometimes the jobs you take in film, you don't necessarily love the script, or you don't necessarily love the connection that you have with the other actor on set. So getting to do that time and time and time again on stage, and like performance after performance, and find new things, I think it only makes you stronger as an actor, because between takes you can find new things. And those techniques, they're geared towards that theater where you have the full script and you get to like play and play and play and like craft a character.
Yeah.
But those things, they do go deeper, and they allow you to like create something much faster when you're on set with another actor as well, which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah. And what school does show people, Austin, I think it shows people that you're able to do it, start a task, complete it successfully, and see it to the end. Because I mean, that's acting in a lot of ways. That's any profession.
And also with theater too, like since there is like such an excitement with it, like you're performing, you don't get to stop, you don't get to, oh no, let me take it back and go back to set and start again. I mean, it's a marathon. You press play and you go and you figure it out, so you've got to make it work. So it's like that sharpens you in a way that like being on film doesn't quite do sometimes, because I flubbed the line, let's take it back to the top, reset the cameras, and there's really nothing lost besides a little bit of time. On stage, you just got to go, you got to figure it out. So that creates like kind of an interesting dynamic that you got to work with. I like.
It's a good answer. I want to ask you, speaking of theater actors, I want to ask you about a theater actor that's been on my show twice.
Yeah.
He's one of the kindest human beings I've ever interviewed. And I'm not just saying this because of what he's done, what he did as High Evolutionary, but how awesome is Chuk Iwuji?
Man, Chuk is like the most upstanding. You can tell he's just so poised. There's so much of that character besides like the evil mastermind, trying to create like change things. There's so much of that, just like that classiness that Chuk just has in life. And he's so well composed when it comes to like his craft. I mean, he grew up in the theater. He grew up in the Royal Shakespeare Company, I think is what he was in. And he understands that part of the craft that I just had a lot of respect for. I watched a couple of interviews that he's put out recently on his like Instagram and things. And man, I already knew that I liked him, but then once I started listening to some of his theory, I was like, oh man, I like, we've got a lot we could actually talk about more, I think too.
Yeah. He is like, his talent level is like, and he always stays like he's the perfect example that good things happen to good people, right?
Agreed.
He was this phenomenal. I think the first time I asked him, he was going to be in the movie The News of the World, and he was eventually cut out of the movie. And I'm like, in my own mind, I'm like, they probably regret that now.
Of course.
But like, but he's just so supremely talented. It's just he's one of those guys that he's another guy that I'd love to pick his brain if I was an actor, off like you were just kind of offset, like because I mean, as a heel, High Evolutionary's as good as it gets in DC, Marvel. You take your pick on that, Austin, right?
Agreed. Yeah, 100%. And I loved an interview that I saw with him recently where he talks about like when you're on stage, you have to create a character, but when you're on camera, the camera picks it up right away and it doesn't believe it. So you literally just have to be yourself. It has to be so natural and so grounded, and you have to find that truth in it in that way. Because as soon as you put on a character on camera, like nobody buys it.
Yeah. Is that the video, Austin, where he's talking about how he got yelled at in an elevator on the way up or way down by the same guy who trained him? It is the same interview.
Yes. It is.
Yeah.
And
then he kind of, then he talks about, and it's like the way he kind of breaks things down. It's just pretty amazing.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
How does your paths cross with James Gunn? You and James Gunn, how does that happen?
So we met actually on Guardians. So that was the first time we had worked together.
Okay.
And when this role came through local casting, this is the kind of the story that I heard. It came through local casting. Casting had an idea of what the role was, but they were very secretive. Marvel is so secretive with everything that they release. So they reached out to the agents in town. They reached out to my agent and they said, "Hey, we think this is for Groot. We think it's going to be run a picture. And we need someone who matches this body profile, who has a resume that can back it up. Who do you have?" And so my agent pitched one guy that he thought might be kind of good for it. And casting was like, "No, that's not quite it." And then they pitched me, and casting was like, "Oh, that's perfect. He just done Loki. They had just cast me in Loki." So they're like, "Let's reach out to this team on Loki and see what they thought about him, see if they think he'd be a good fit." And so from what I've been told, some of the producers on Loki reached out and like kind of spoke on my behalf.
Wow.
And that's what kind of led to it. I didn't even audition for the role. It kind of just came as a direct offer. And it was because the producers on Loki said that they loved working with me and that Tom loved working with me and they liked the professionalism or something like that. And this is just what I'm hearing from my agent. So it's like, that's always super heartwarming to hear that like people are appreciating your work. And it's like, it's like connecting in a good way. So yeah, I mean, I met James on set and it was like production day -2. So it was like 2 days before like principal photography started. So they were doing green screen work. They were doing a lot of the stuff with like, you know, Lila and Teefs and Floor and Rocket and all of this kind of stuff. And so I had a meet and greet with him after Nico Santos and Miriam Shore and some of the star children who were in the movie as well. And so I met James like that day. Just told him I was super excited. I was a big fan of the franchise because I have been. Groot's actually been one of my favorite characters for a long time. So I was really excited to like kind of just be kind of stepping into those shoes. And that I'd see him on Monday. I think it was like a Friday when I met him. And then, I mean, we started working on Monday and I mean, it was off to the races from there.
Austin, for those listening who might not understand, talk about what you did in the development of Groot.
Yeah. So a lot of what you're doing as an on-camera and motion capture actor for an established character is you're creating a new version of that for that film. And so James gave me some ideas of where Groot is now. He's about 20, 21, somewhere in that age range. He's my height, 6'1". And so he has some of that sort of young energy still. He's a young adult. He's not the alpha Groot from the first movie. So he's not the slower moving, you know, like titan of a character. And he's not the baby Groot who's like super energetic and running around. And he's not the teenage Groot that's kind of mopey and, you know, like has that angsty kind of style. So for me, he said that he has some of that young energy. And I wanted to create something that was kind of a tie-in between all of those characters. So I wanted him to be protective because this is his family. He sees Star-Lord as his dad. He sees Gamora as his mother. All of the other Guardians, they are his family. So in my mind, I wanted him to have sort of a younger energy, but he's super protective of those around him because he is one of the strongest ones. He can protect all of them. He protected them from a ship crashing. So it was a lot of that energy. And then creating, since I knew he was going to be a much bigger version, a much like more muscular version, just incorporating some of that swagger walk and stuff like that. And that was like really fun. And then kind of crafting it from there and then just kind of sinking into the character and kind of finding it from there with the lines.
Yeah, that's really well said. So it's kind of like your body, the mannerisms, that's all you. And then they kind of dub in later Vin Diesel. Do you have any interaction with Vin Diesel?
No, Vin and I, we never met until actually the premiere. So nice. we met then because I mean he goes into the studio and he does his part. And I think it's during post-production sometime. I don't exactly know, but yeah, he's never on set. So I never got to meet him there. And as far as I know, I don't think he's been on set for any of the other films either. I think he kind of goes in and James is in the session, looped in somehow, and they kind of go through what each of the context for the lines are. And, it's like we're doing it all on screen too. I'm doing all of the I am Groots on screen, and they all have a context, and, it's like so that the other actors have something to react to. And like, there's that focus point and those things. But then, Vin goes in at the end and they loop it all in, and then they create the finished product.
Dude, how freaking cool is it? You're Groot. How freaking great is that?
It's crazy, man.
Dude, that's
it
awesome.
Still hasn't quite sunk in some ways, but yeah, it's super, super crazy. Like, I'm just from a small town in Georgia, so it's like there's like definitely some moments where I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? Like,
no, you've earned your way here. But I got to tell you, when I first saw the original trailer, I'm like, oh god, here come the tears. Here we go. Here comes.
Oh yeah.
And then when the second trailer hits, and there's that "Since You've Been Gone," like, and then you see Chris Pratt crying over somebody, and it's presumably Rocket. Dude, I had to walk out of the theater for a little bit during a trailer. God. That's how pathetic I am, Austin.
Oh my gosh.
I was like flooded.
How did you do in the movie?
Not good. Because I'll tell you why. Because I can't look at a raccoon the same.
Oh no.
I get those poor animals. Like, I drive by roadkill now, and I sob. Like, I can't. No. But like, I was amazed with how James pushed the envelope with the animals in a good way. To really, it was tough to get through in that regard, because I'm an animal guy. I got 3 dogs. Like, so it's like,
sure.
But I don't know, man. The trailers were amazing. The movie was amazing, and there was so much to it that I don't know. How did you like seeing the final cut when you were on screen and the final product?
I loved it because I got to see, like, you get to see kind of that director pull, because it goes from funny to sad the entire movie.
Yeah.
And so it's literally just pulling on your heartstrings, so you don't know it. And I love that quick change like that, where it's like something's really sad and then there's kind of a funny joke that brings you out of it really quickly.
Yeah.
So there was so much of that like, when we're on set, you have an idea of how it's going to be, but it never prepares you for the finished product when the music's added in and the cutaways from the camera. So it pulls you and directs you in the way that, the director's vision is for the project. So when you see that final cut, it's like, you're incredibly proud, but you're also just kind of along for the ride, because it's the director's medium. We do our part, but then we don't know which take they choose. We don't know, how they're going to cut it together, how it's going to be in the final edit. Yeah. So the first time that I saw it, I was just like, all right, well, let's just enjoy it and see what we do. And then I've seen it several times since then, so I can do a little more, kind of meta watching. But yeah, that first time I was just kind of an emotional roller coaster myself. And it's gotten worse. Like, the more I've seen it, the more the tears come too. And I know what to expect.
Yeah. You know what's coming and it still hits you.
It still hits, man.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you was, like, so I'm sure you've seen the first two before this movie came out. Yeah. So how about little things like because Rocket and Groot have one of the strongest rapports in the franchise. I mean, it's just, does any of that play into your emotions as you're acting out Groot, as you're doing your thing with Groot? Does that play a part too, Austin?
Oh, 100%. And like those, there were certain scenes, they didn't show it very much in the final edit, but there is a moment where we find I'm trying to remember. It's from the Orgo core. So it's like the sphere, and we're like watching this basically hologram of what happened to Rocket when they're operating on him. So when we filmed that, it was like this highly emotional. There's just operatic music that they're playing on set to help us kind of anchor in and like stay in for the emotion. And the camera operator, Henry, he's moving around in the middle of us. And there's kind of like a glowing orb, like over, like in the middle of this circle of all of the Guardians.
Right.
And so we're all just watching it, and we're listening to the music, and we're imagining what has happened to Rocket, that we're seeing all this operation and this terrible, terrible things. Oh. And so we're literally sitting around in a circle, and every single person in the circle is just sobbing. So yeah, there's a lot of that it didn't make sense to make it into the final cut. But those moments, like, I think those will probably stick with me forever. A lot of those moments where everybody was just so in it. The moment where Chris is crying over the operating table. And I mean, there are so many moments that, like, even when I'm watching it on set in the moment, like, you kind of get lost in it because it was just so beautiful and so emotionally connected.
Yeah, that's a great answer. How about any interactions with the cast that were memorable? I'm sure they're all memorable, but like anything with Chris or anybody else that you took away, or
I mean,
anything you want?
everybody is just so like everybody. You can tell everybody loves each other so much on that set.
Mm,
So I mean, Chris has just got the biggest energy. I mean, you walk into these big, probably 10,000 square foot sound stages, and you got these giant sets erected in the middle of them. And as soon as Chris Pratt walks on the set, you can hear him from any part of the stage. He has so much energy, and he's just like always singing and dancing and just cracking jokes with everybody. And I mean, he is Star-Lord. He's just got that energy. Like he makes everybody feel welcome. It's that beautiful kind of top-down energy where he just like is constantly making people feel welcome. He's a movie star, and he's been been a movie star for a long time now, and he's still just like when he talks, he just focuses right on you, and he's just like he's so present. It's like that's just really beautiful. And then, I mean, everybody just has. I remember the first person I met was actually Karen Gillan, and I didn't really know Karen's work super well. Like I knew Doctor Who and I knew Jumanji and some other things, but like I didn't really know her personality. And so it was my very first day on, and she's got the Nebula like prosthetics on, which is like this super tight piece that's over her face, and it makes her have that very stoic robot look where she looks like she's very unapproachable. But for me, like, I don't really meet a stranger. So I'm like, hey, what's up, Karen? I'm Austin. I'm playing Groot. And she goes from that robotic face to like, oh, hello. This sweet Scottish girl and like so nice and like hugs me. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
And so she just has the sweetest personality. And I mean, everybody's just so fun. Everybody's got such a great like spirit about being there. They love this project. You can tell that they really, really put a lot of their heart and soul into it. And it was just, I mean, it was awesome just to be kind of like the new guy for this particular project. It was great.
One of the coolest scenes is when you're back to back with Pratt with Groot with the guns. Like, so you guys are actually back to back doing that, right?
So we have some of that, but we also have an awesome stunt team that does a lot of that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So because so much of that is like intricate movements and diving and weaving, and they did have some like sort of explosion things happening on set. So they don't let us do some of that fun stuff, sadly.
Yeah.
But I mean, so much of that and the other fight scene in the hallway, like. That's some CGI for Groot, and then it's some of our awesome stunt team just going in, and like our stunt coordinator Heidi Moneymaker, and like there were so many people that just are such pros at what they do that they made us look a lot better than we would have done. So it's like we let them do their thing, and we thank them and make sure they're safe, and just it's just such a a collaborative part there, which is really cool.
I remember watching the screen and Groot starts to fly. I'm like, holy shit!
Yeah,
can fly. Like I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah,
like,
I know the wings popping up.
Did you? When do you like? I mean, it's such a nerd question. Like, do you read the script and say, "Holy cow, they're adding something to Groot here. He can fly." Like, that's amazing.
those are cool little things that are that we have to keep hidden. Like that, and then at the very very end too, with like Groot's final line, like those are things that are like completely hidden that we couldn't tell anybody because it's like so secretive with everything.
Talk about a moment where people like just lost it. Oh my god! Because
I was really excited to see because when that happened, I knew it was coming. So I'm literally just looking around at the theater watching to see like how people react.
Yeah, are you? I don't know. I just think it'd be so cool to watch yourself on screen. You had to be so proud of what you did and what the team did, what everybody did.
Yeah,
like,
it was really cool. Like, there's been a couple of moments in like kind of my career where like I've looked around and just been like, wow, like this is like because as an actor, there are so many like valleys. There's so much no. There's so much no. There's so much rejection, and no, you're not quite right for the role. You're too tall. You're too short. You're not big enough. You're too big. Like all of that stuff. You remind me of my ex-boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and so you don't get the job, right? So the moments where you do get to kind of celebrate and like you can be really proud of the work, those are things that like I'm like really aware of, and like I try to sit down and just like savor it and just kind of see where I'm feeling. So like, yeah, being at like the premiere in Hollywood and like surrounded by some of my favorite actors and like some of the biggest stars in Hollywood and like some of the most amazing producers and directors. And I mean, there are just moments where you just sit around and you go, wow, this is like really, really like a special moment that I'm going to treasure.
Yeah. And I mean, how about people that are in a theater with you not knowing, hey, that's Groot? I mean, you're Groot in a theater with Groot. I mean, how cool is that from a total?
I'm like an incognito superhero or something. It's like so wild, man. I don't know, like Superman with his glasses on.
You know what I like? I like about Groot is it feels very much like a Darth Vader thing, right? You have James Earl Jones' voice, but Dave is known for playing that his mannerisms, his walk. The same thing with Groot. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, like you're just as much, if not more, a part of it than Vin Diesel. Those are my words, Vin Diesel, because I feel like, yes, it's his voice, but like the mannerisms, the emotions, that's the stuff that hits home with people too. It's not just the I am Groot. That's cute. It's awesome.
Sure.
Vin does a wonderful job, but like kudos and like congrats to you, man. Like I just feel like your name needs to be out there just as much.
Yeah, and that's the cool part about it is that, you know, since this character is two people, it's like even better, like the We Are Groot, you know, it's like so cool because like that's one of the things that I got to talk with Vin about a little bit. It was just like it's just so cool that like people come together and they create this particular character together. And it's the same way with Rocket because it's Sean Gunn that is on set doing all of the work for Rocket. You know, he's doing everything there, and then, you know, Bradley Cooper, he comes in and he does all of the voiceover for it, and that connects in such a beautiful way too. But, you know, it's like it's Sean that's on set that's, you know, walking around, you know, kind of in like a duck walk, like to get that level right. And he's been doing it since movie one, as far as I know. So like that's really cool too, and he deserves to have some praises sung for his way because, you know, he's been doing it since the beginning, and he's like become, you know, like such a cool character with Kraglin too. But it's you know, like that is such a fun part about the characters that, yeah, I'm like sort of a Marvel superhero now, but like I can like kind of just live like a normal life, which is cool too.
Yeah.
So it's like I've got people from like my hometown that are like super excited, and like that's really cool and that's really special to me. And I get to represent the Atlanta market with this, which is really cool too. Like, you know, this didn't come from like a big named Los Angeles actor. This came from me. And like, I'm really proud of that. That's like really cool for the market too.
Yeah, you should be, man. Like, and a couple more questions, man. Thank you for all this time. I really appreciate it. You know, one of the things that James does that's genius, and you brought this kind of up before, is when and I won't say what he says, but when Groot says a line at the end that everybody knows who's seen it, it's just so powerful.
Yeah.
I love that decision making because now the audience is able to understand what Rocket's understood the entire journey.
Yeah,
like,
and
how freaking genius is that, Austin?
The cool thing was, this is the coolest part about it. We were sitting there in that, and you know, you don't shoot the final scene in final order. You know, it's like out of order the way that we shot it.
Right.
But we're sitting there, and we're coming kind of to probably the last like maybe a week or two of filming, and we're sitting there, and James, you know, all the Guardians are in a circle, and James comes up and he's like, "I've got an idea for something that I want to try." And so it kind of, I don't know if he had planned it before that or if it just came to him in the moment. But it was one of those like mad scientist ideas that came along, and he was like, "I want to try this. Do you guys think it'll work?" And I was like, "Holy shit, man, that's awesome! Of course that's going to land." And it's such a payoff for the audience who's been on this journey for 10 years now.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I got, you know, obviously I get to feed the line to everybody, and it's like such a sweet moment that I mean, I knew from the time that he suggested it that it was going to be gold.
Yeah. Do you? On set, do you actually say it? Like,
yeah.
Because, oh, dude, how was that?
That was so cool because it's such a final moment in so many ways that you could tell that everybody was just so like just dialed in on that. Like from Palm and Dave and everybody. I just remember specifically that being such a cool moment, and like everybody just, I think, kind of realizing that like this is kind of the end of the journey, and like it was such a cool moment that set in that it was kind of somber afterwards in like a good way. Like everybody was like hugging each other. It was like really sweet.
Oh man, do they let you take anything home with you? Like any
I unintentionally stole my motion capture gloves and my hat. So it was my last day on, and I was packing up to go back to my trailer to change out. And like one of the ADs came over and they're like, "Hey, before you leave, James wants you to come to the set and he wants to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay." So I put the gloves and my motion capture hat just in my backpack that I had on set. And I got to set and they finished up the scene, and then they did like kind of a clap off for me. Like, "Hey, just, you know, Austin's wrapped on the movie," and like hug James, and everybody was like excited about it. And so I stole those by accident, and I've got my chair bags. Like I'm in my Groot chair.
Oh, how cool is that?
From the actual movie. So it's like I've got those from both the holiday special and Guardians 3, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So I've got those on like my kind of cast chairs at home. Eventually I may put those in like a shadow box or something just to kind of commemorate them. But yeah, it's really cool. Those are my things that I got.
Do you want me to give you my address? You're going to send them directly to me, or do we have to meet?
Yeah. What I'll deliver them, hand deliver it. It'll be better.
What makes James so great because now he's going to head DC and he ends this with freaking a bang.
Yeah.
So we talked earlier about learning, right? Learning. You seem like one of those people that learns on set, like Tom Hiddleston earlier.
Yeah.
James Gunn here, who's a genius.
Yeah.
Learning. What is it about Gunn that makes him so special? Maybe you don't have time to tell me. You know what I'm saying? There's so much to him.
Yeah.
What did you find?
I would say that the first thing that makes him so good at what he does is that he loves this material. Like, you know, he obviously grew up loving these comics. And so for him, like, he has a vested interest in making sure that it's really, really good. So he's just a nerd in that way. And like, I think that's really cool. I think like I've said it a couple of times that I think James is kind of like he's like a mad scientist. Like he just tries things and they work. And like, he does take a risk in that regard. And I think that's part of his genius. But I think really what it comes down to is that he loves the people that he hires and he loves the material. So he trusts his actors because they're all great at what they do. And he loves the material. So he's going to guide it in the right direction to get to the vision that he has. And I think that's really, really special.
And listen, I mean, he could bring you over to DC. Your reputation has gotten you here. Your acting ability has gotten you here. I mean, and I'm going to tell you,
James, go ahead and do that.
That'd
be great. Thanks.
Awesome.
Plug.
I'm gonna make a prediction here. Chuk Iwuji, Mr. High Evolutionary, will be the next Lex Luthor. I'll bet my life on it.
Okay, that would be really interesting to see. He would be great at it, especially like over multiple movies. Oh my god.
Yes, great. Speaking of great, man, thank you for this. I mean, like, I don't know, it's just you brought so much to the role, and like, you know, I just appreciate what you did in that movie and what you've been doing on, you know, in your IMDb for a long time. It's not like you just like randomly got this as like a gift role. Like you've been working your ass off for some time. So
I've had some cool opportunities, man. I've really trust. I've got a great team out here. My agents are super, super great, and I've got great relationships with casting. So it's like, I think those have been some like real keys to moving forward in my career. And I'm really excited to see kind of what comes next.
Dude, how is a Comic-Con not in your future?
It might be. It might be because like I personally, like, I'm a big nerd myself, so like I attend cons and just kind of go as a guest. So like in Atlanta, I always go to Dragon Con. I go to that every single year.
Yeah.
And I've got like a group of people. We all go, we cosplay, and we have a good time. And so I have a feeling that that's probably going to be in the future pretty soon. And then, yeah, we'll see about Comic-Con. I feel like that maybe like D23 and some of those other ones, like those are going to be options for sure in the future, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to Philly Fan Expo in June.
Oh yeah.
So, and I used to go to the Walker Stalkers in Atlanta.
Oh yeah.
I went for 3 years. I love Atlanta. I mean, I think Atlanta's an awesome city. I love it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Austin, is there anything you wanted to get out there as far as your social media, a future project, anything that you have in store that you want people to know about? Sure. Austin, the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, so you guys can follow me at Austin Freeman on Instagram. And I've got a movie coming out. I believe it's coming out next month for Netflix called They Clone Tyrone. It's going to be a super cool movie with John Boyega, with Jamie Foxx. There's a lot of really, really, really amazing actors in this movie. And so excited about that. And got a couple that I'm starting on pretty soon that are going to be out probably next year. So just be kind of on the lookout.
You are a Groot, my man. Thank you for this. I really appreciate it. You're a good guy. Thanks, Austin.
Thanks, Derek.
Take care.